Dear Jackie, Laura, Katya, dear friends, I was deeply shocked to receive the sad news that Anthony had left us. He was not only an academic but simply a man of God and a wonderful believer, dedicated and faithful to biblical truth in traditional Baptist understanding. Back in the 90s, I was working on baptism and the Lord's Supper without knowing the work of Anthony. We followed parallel path in our research, and it was only recent years that I got to know Anthony personally, and we began to work together. He not only inspired me and gave me wings for future work, but also did a lot for Ukrainian Baptists. Anthony visited Kiev in February 2018, and the seminars he held there helped many of our brothers to see completely new faces of Baptist heritage. It was a great honor for me to share part of this work with him, and he had some plans for future. But the Lord took Anthony home, and I know that he is in a better place. May Jesus calm the hearts of those who are grieving. And as the old spirituals says, I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? A band of angels coming to carry me home. Yeah, come, Lord Jesus, come.
I got to know Anthony when I first came to Bristol, and our knowing one another was consolidated when I worked with him and Brian Hames on our book about the nature of church. And over the years, we worked together on a variety of projects. And what I learned from Anthony was so much about how to research and about how to write. I unfortunately did not learn from him as much as he could have taught me about how to copy edit, how to deal with footnotes. I did, however, learn from him that I need to write in paragraphs. He was very good at pulling me up. Also a friend whom I valued very deeply. He and I have been working together over the last few years on a history of the college in Bristol, and I am deeply sad that he will not see the finished product. I will treasure the last thing I have from him, his editing of my Festschrift.
Dear Jackie, Katja, and Laura, and everyone that's watching, my name is Steun van der Leer. I'm a tutor at the Baptist Seminary at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam. The first 10 years that I knew Anthony, it was through paper, by reading his articles and his books and learning a lot from them. When I recall our first meeting in Oxford, that always gives me a smile. I was driving with a Dutch colleague towards a conference in Manchester, and we had made an appointment to meet with Anthony in Oxford to talk about some cooperation in research. And because we were going to meet for the first time in our lives the Anthony Cross, we brought, especially for that occasion, not so much for the conference, our jacket and tie. And so we knocked on his door, only to discover that the one that opened the door was in shorts and a polo shirt. Now you know why I'm wearing this, to honor him today. I got to know him much better in 2013 when he was for a couple of months in Amsterdam as a researcher in residence. I discovered he was a bit shy, and I think now and then he was homesick. But he managed. He persevered, and we learned a lot from him. I think Anthony was most in his element if he could be of help. Help you finding certain sources you were looking for, or point you to 1, 2, or even 10 sources that you'd missed while working on a subject. I'll miss him. Miss him as an advisor, as an example in research, as a friend, and as a brother in Christ. May he rest in peace and rise in glory.
Hello, my name is Brian Talbot, minister of Broughty Ferry Baptist Church in Dundee. It is an honour and privilege to say a few words of thanksgiving for the life of my friend Anthony Cross. Anthony was someone who was incredibly caring and thoughtful. His references in my conversations with him to his family and their accomplishments in his typically understated English way were hallmarks of his love and interest in them, but yet equally his interest in others. He never failed to ask about my own family and what they were doing. He took an interest and care for others. It was so much a part of who he was. As a scholar, he wrote many books and papers, but he also helped others write and publish their own work, giving voices and opportunities to others. He's someone that will be greatly missed by us all, and today it's an honour to give thanks to God for the life of my friend and Christian brother.
My name is Lon Graham. Anthony was the supervisor for my doctoral dissertation. But more important than that, he became a true and good friend. Now, when I met him, I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I knew he was a top-rate scholar, and I knew that I would have to do my very best work to get his approval, and that was very true. But what I found when I met him was a man who was, above all, kind and encouraging and helpful and caring. I mean, he never met my family, but he would always ask about them and wish them well. On the scholarly side, he would send me material that he thought might be helpful for my research, and honestly, it usually was. When I told him that I needed to come to the UK to do some research, he immediately volunteered to host me in his home, and he did that twice. And I will always cherish those days that we drove into Bristol from Bath to the college and the conversations that we had along the way, because he was encouraging and helpful and knew more history than I can ever hope to, but he was also hilarious. A conversation with Anthony, even a serious one, always included laughter. Now, since he passed, one bit of wisdom that he passed on to me has kept coming back into my mind, and it was this concept of the academic community as an ongoing conversation. So there are all these people discussing a topic, and we merely add our voices to it. We respond to what is said, others respond to our response, and the conversation keeps going with our voice added. And he would say that we have a responsibility to the conversation. We need to pay attention to it, become a part of it, and strive to add something worthwhile. Well, Anthony himself did that. He paid attention to the conversation. He was a part of it. And he said many things that were worthwhile. And now we will continue the conversation. Historians, theologians, other scholars will keep discussing, but it won't be the same without Anthony, because he made the conversation different. We're having a different discussion because of him. And that's really true outside the academic world as well. We will all continue life now without Anthony, but it won't be the same because he made us different. His life influenced and shaped our lives. We are not who we are without him. But I have hope that I'll see him again. The Christ who welcomed him into rest will one day welcome me. And then the conversation will continue.
I've known Anthony for about 20 years. We first met when I went to work at Paternoster, and he was thick as thieves with Jeremy Muddit and Howard Marshall in the Paternoster Biblical and Theological Monographs, and I had the honour of working with them as a colleague for 9 years. Over that time, I came to know and respect Anthony greatly. I thought of him as a facilitator. He knew everybody, particularly in Baptist historical and theological scholarship, and he would encourage people to write and connect people up and get people published and pioneer series like the Studies in Baptist History and Thought, which I think will leave a lasting legacy in Baptist scholarship. He was also a scholar in his own right. Numerous books. He was incredibly meticulous, really thorough with his footnotes. Man, did he love his footnotes. He was broad in his range of interests and deep. But for me, the book that really encapsulates and is the one that impacted me most is Recovering the Evangelical Sacrament, which I think is my go-to book on baptism. I think he understands baptism better than most of us do, and that's coming from an Anglican, because he understands the sacramental aspect, and that was one of the driving forces for him. And in all sorts of works, he would promote this Baptist sacramentalist vision, and I loved that. But I also, over the years, came to know him and think of him as a friend. After I left Paternoster after 9 years, we continued working when I was at Whitford and publishing his stuff, and sometimes he would contact me and say, "Robin, can you mind if can we video and have a chat about this project or something?" And I would have a bit of dread because I know what it's like when we start talking. We just never shut up. We've got to talk about this work, and we'll talk about the work, but we end up talking about everything. And I know it's going to be a long conversation. It almost always is, because that's how we were. It was an honour and a privilege to have known him. It's hard to imagine a world without Anthony, and he will be greatly missed. But his legacy is varied and enormous. And I think he would be very proud to see the legacy and the impact that he's had on the lives of a lot of people.
Thinking of Anthony brings moments of strong and mixed emotions. There is grief, serious grief at Anthony's early death, tear-stained grief I cannot and do not want to hide. I have lost a much-loved friend who gave so generously of himself to enrich many lives. He has come to mean so much to us, and so we grieve. This is a loss of love, and we all feel it very deeply. But this heavy grief is mixed with an almost inexpressible sense of thankfulness. I focus on only one aspect of Anthony's life, that of a fellow Baptist minister. Anthony was a Baptist scholar of international significance. The books he wrote, edited, saw through to publication, will be consulted for years to come, deepening his reputation. Many, many more scholars than any of us know will give thanks for his encouragement and generosity, not only of his books and teaching, but most particularly of himself. He cared for other ministers, especially those under pressure. I was privileged to know something of this. He had a pastoral heart. Quietly and unobtrusively he showed that care, and those who felt forgotten were blessed. A strong, silent ministry. He was possessed by this strong sense of calling, a deep commitment to ministry. In the face of setbacks, he remained faithful, spending and being spent in the service of Christ. It was a sorrow that we could not find for him a position suitable for the expression of his great desire for service. He had so much to give, and gave all that he could anyway for Christ's sake. He was a living example of costly and joyful discipleship. His love for his family was an inspiration to behold. His sense of humour, an expression, well, sometimes embarrassing, but mostly of his irrepressible sense of joy in life before God. So simply, I thank God because Anthony was a gift of God. He brought love and learning and laughter. Every time I shall remember him, recall his guidance, study his books, ever find him coming to my mind, I shall give thanks to God. Above all, I shall give thanks to God.